Hi, Chris. Kind of an early blockbuster, and here's the man who made the deal. Can you talk? What were the factors of this trade?
Well, I think from the beginning, as strange as it may sound, George Seifert was pounding the table for offense, offense, offense. And we've had our eye on J.J. Stokes for approximately 7 months. And he visited us in San Diego after our game against the Chargers toward the end of the season last year. And again, he did nothing but impress us throughout the entire postseason period and the offseason. And when we saw the opportunity to reach out and grab him, so to speak, at the 10th pick, we just had to do whatever it took to get it done.
It's almost unheard of for the 49ers to trade a future pick. How did you determine that was applicable?
I don't think we've ever traded our future first-round pick. But when you're at the 30th spot, it appeared as though you weren't going to get what we consider to be one of the 8 or 9 top players in the draft. And we paid a price, but we think the price is going to pay dividends.
And what does this mean? Many people will be wondering, what does this mean for John Taylor?
Well, I think John Taylor plays a role on this team, no question about it. And don't forget, there's more than 2 receivers on the team, and I think that being able to play with Jerry Rice and John Taylor will enhance and promote the development of J.J. Stokes.
Everyone said your needs were running back and an outside pass rusher. Will you look there next?
Well, with what we have left, we'll look there next.
Thank you, Carmen. Back to you.
Well, Leslie and Carmen, they don't have a lot of left in the pick department. Remember, they don't have their 2 because they lost that to Marquez Pope. Now they lose their 3. So we've seen the 49ers make their certainly first day and part of their second day draft. 18 out of 20 years, the 49ers have made some sort of move on draft day. Last year they went up, made a move with the Rams and got Bryant Young, and you saw what he did. We talked about the Jerry Rice deal. I remember a time in '82 when they swung Russ Francis from the Patriots. He became an integral part of their Super Bowl championship team in 1984. And last year, of course, we mentioned Young and Floyd. They took at their normal spot. So this is last year's draft. They had 2 first-round picks the year before. Dana Stubblefield, one of them. You saw what he has done for the team. So they have struck gold, no pun intended, last couple of years. And so often in the first round, the teams that are at the top, they're not just there because they just miraculously for 20 straight years have the best football players. They work the system quickly, and Joe, they got a heck of a receiver.
They really did. J.J. Stokes is probably the most complete receiver in this draft. He has everything except the blazing speed. 6 feet 4.5, 217 pounds. Does an excellent job down around the line, around the goal line. Watch him catch the ball, protects it as he goes in the end zone. Now he does a terrific job. Watch his feet. Just a little tap. See that right foot slide down. Knows exactly how to get in the end zone. He's really not that necessarily fast coming off the ball, but he can run away from people. You saw the big man go down and make a low ball catch, which is very difficult for wide receivers. He not only can catch the ball down low, but if necessary, he can go up high and take the ball away. Just has a lot of gifts, soft hands, physical off the line of scrimmage, and can make things happen. Now he breaks into the open field against Washington, and he shows the kind of speed that he doesn't show in 40 times. This is one of those rare players that plays faster than his 40 time. You put pads on him, you get a faster football player. J.J. Stokes is a real find for the 49ers.
Dwight Clark, Vinny Serrato, George Seifert, John McVay, Carmen Policy, all teaming up to make a very quick move. And a wild one, Chris Mortensen, Stokes to the Niners.
That's right, Chris. You have to suspect that Bill Walsh maybe had been a factor in this one. IMG, which represents both J.J. Stokes and John Walsh, the BYU quarterback, had them both working with Bill Walsh in trying to prep them for this draft. And so I imagine Bill Walsh said, hey, J.J. Stokes might be a pretty good pick. Let's go to Mark Malone in Philadelphia.
Thanks, Mort. Just to add on the New York Jets situation, talking to Dick Haley, their player personnel guy, not too long ago after the original pick of Kyle Brady, he said obviously they're looking for a wide receiver to replace Rob Moore or a defensive person. The fact that San Francisco has now moved up really takes the real premier wide receivers out of the lot, and I would expect the New York Jets now will be going for a defensive player on that front seven. Let's go back to New York.
All right, Mark and Mort, the 49ers have made their move. Minnesota is next. First time we've seen 3 receivers this high since '88. Tim Brown, Sterling Sharp, Michael Irvin. They went then. They're all Pro Bowl players. We've had 3 go already. We'll be back.
Relax. it's dependable.
Relax, it's Ream.
Relax, it's enduring.
Relax, it's Ream.
The Italians have always been known for incredible cuisine, distinctive architecture, and, until recently, the very finest in exotic sports cars. Introducing the new NSX-T from Acura. Some things are worth the price.
I am not what I wear. I'm not a pair of pants or a shirt. I'm not in touch with my inner child. I don't read poetry, and I'm not politically correct. I'm just a guy, and I don't have time to think about what I wear, because I've got a lot of important guy things to do. 100% cotton, wrinkle-free pants and shorts that don't require a lot of thought. Hager, stuff you can wear.
Relax, it's economical.
Relax, it's Ream.
Relax, it's remarkable.
Relax, it's Ream.
Now back in New York, Warren Sapp still hopeful that maybe this is his slot. Minnesota now picks next, and remember that they have certainly lost one of their fine defensive tackles, Henry Thomas, signed as a free agent by the Detroit Lions. Let's go up to Brad Nessler and get the latest on the Vikings, who are on the clock right now with about 5.5 minutes to go. Brad?
All right, Chris, and that is the key point. Henry Thomas goes to the Detroit Lions as a free agent. The Vikings know they've got to fill that spot. Now, yesterday, when I talked to Roger Hedrick, the president of the team, I said, is there a defensive player worth moving up for? He said, probably Warren Sapp. I talked to Denny Green. Who's the guy that has the most impact defensively in this whole draft? He said, Warren Sapp. Talked to Tony Dungy, the defensive coordinator, this morning, and said, Tony, what if he slips to number 11? He says, hey, the guy's never missed a practice. He's never slowed down in a game. If Warren Sapp falls to number 11, he personally would love to have him. So I think if the Minnesota Vikings aren't the perfect fit for Warren Sapp, that right now, that's almost an admission by them that these drug reports have had some sort of effect. They need a defensive tackle. He's the best one out there. We'll see what they do. Chris?
All right, Brad, thank you. About 4:40 to go on the Vikings pick, and then Tampa Bay is next. So, again, we're getting back to teams. Well, Minnesota here with the first of their 2 first-round selections. And the Buccaneers, who went down engineering that trade with Philadelphia, they again have to consider a player like Warren Sapp. Last year, Minnesota, we mentioned that they lost Henry Thomas, one of their tandem tackles with John Randall. They lost some other defensive linemen. They've made changes in their secondary. They pick up a starter from the Patriots, Harlan Barnett. They do pick up the Sandman, Broderick Thomas, back from Detroit, who had a very good year at outside backer for Wayne Fonts, after not playing great at Tampa. So they hope that he can come in. But, Joe, this is a team, the Minnesota Vikings, that started off with a lot of sizzle, and then at the end, it just kind of faded out and had a bad playoff loss to the Bears.
You picture Warren Sapp just like a Henry Thomas.
Well, we'll go back in a minute, because here the Vikings, they have made a selection. Joe, man, a few words.
Why not?
Funny, you see, now we just wanted to cut you off.
Look, he's gone.
The podium is, he's gone.
He was there. Anyway, what I was saying.
As you were saying.
As I was saying, Warren Sapp, in my opinion, fits perfectly for the Minnesota Vikings, simply because you lose a Henry Thomas, who's a shorter guy and a quick guy. Sapp would be an excellent tandem with John Randall.
With the 11th pick in the first round, the Minnesota Vikings select defensive end from Florida State, Derrick Alexander.
Ooh.
Next selection will be by Tampa Bay, which is now on the clock with the choice acquired from Philadelphia.
Well, there's no mystery anymore. Derrick Alexander is a fine player, but certainly was not as high up as Warren Sapp until all of this came out yesterday. Let's go to Craig James. Craig?
Absolutely right, Chris. There's no way you can rate Alexander as high as Warren Sapp. Warren, right now, the emotions.
I mean, it's just a tough situation. I'm just sitting here waiting around, but I mean, it's not that tough.
You're, Drew Rosenhaus as the agent. What are you hearing on the phones right now?
Well, my phone's ringing right now, so I think it's going to be any second. Literally, this could be the key call. I think it's obvious he's going to be drafted very soon. I suspect it could be this call right now. Let's see.
Let's do it.
Hello, Rosenhaus. Yes. Yes, Jerry. Okay, you got it. I got to take this call, guys, okay?
All right. Well, obviously it is an important phone call, and we'll let you know just as soon as we can.
Oh, we're into phone tapping now here at ESPN. That's nice to know.
Well, this is just between you and me.
Derrick Alexander. Now, Mel, this is a player who a week ago, in calling around the league and the personnel folks, had kind of gone down a little bit, but this week he kind of came back up. A lot of folks looked at a workout which wasn't great. Then they went back to the film room and saw what he did on the field. I think they changed their mind and he moved back up, correct?
Yes, they did, Chris. Very productive player, fiery player, consistent football player. Didn't work out at the combine. Then he goes to the individual workout session, and he really disappointed. Did not run the kind of time that people expected, did not show the kind of athletic ability people expected. But you watch him here coming off the corner, gets into the backfield, shows some quickness in a limited area. What he doesn't have is great closing speed, and that will hurt as a pass rusher in the NFL. What he does give you is some flexibility. Can move inside, over the center, and guard, and play a defensive tackle spot. And that may be the way you see him, Chris, as an on or around the scrimmage type of player, not a kind of player that can get you 10 to 15 sacks a year.
An interesting note, Mel, this is the second year in a row that Derrick Alexander has gone in the first round. Of course, a different Derrick Alexander, wide receiver Cleveland last year. Now this Derrick Alexander goes to Minnesota. Let's go up to Brad Nessler, who's with the Vikings coach Dennis Green. Brad?
All right, Chris, thank you. So the Vikings have made their selection. You need help on the defensive line. I'll get around to Derrick Alexander, but first I got to ask you about Warren Sapp. You're not the first guy that's going to have to answer this question. You lose a guy like Henry Thomas. You and I talked yesterday about the impact a guy like Sapp could have, and yet he was there and you didn't take him.
Well, Sarah Tuala will take Henry Thomas's place, and he's done that for us for 2 years when he's had to play as a backup. So we never go into the draft thinking about a need specifically. We had Derrick Alexander rated very high. We had a lot of players ranked high. You know, there are a lot of good players still on the board, so we're excited about Derrick Alexander. We brought him in here with about 14, 15 other guys, and we really kind of fell in love with him. We think he's a big, explosive player. What he brings to us is one thing we've been talking about for 3 years, a little bit bigger in the defensive line, I think. Particularly when you're playing against the good teams in the fourth quarter, I think Derrick Alexander can make a big difference for us.
Well, you've had a hole there with Chris Dolman since he was gone the past year. Just one more thing about the tackle, and I don't mean to harp on this thing. Did the drug allegations about Warren Sapp have any bearing on your decision?
Not at all. We had 5 blue-chip players still on the board. We had to decide what would be the best guy to help us. And, again, there's some guys on the board right now that also, if Derrick Alexander had been gone, we probably would have taken them, too. For us, it's all about ranking the players and then taking the guys we know can really help us.
You're going to try to move up again in the first round? You got number 24 yet?
Well, we got another pick, so we're still getting some calls, and we'll discuss it a little bit. I mean, I think that what we like is there's some players there because there were a few, I guess you'd quote, surprise picks in there. And so there are going to be some good players here. But if we sit tight at 24, like we did last year with the picks 19 and 20, we think we'll wind up with 2 very good football players.
All right, Denny, thanks.
You bet.
Denny Green, head coach of the Vikings. Tampa Bay's on the clock, and let's go down there to Gary Danielson. Gary?
All right, thanks, Brad. I believe it was Jerry Angelo, player personnel from Tampa, that was talking to Warren Sapp, and I'm going to bet you everything I got in my pocket. I wasn't a big quarterback. I got $21 in my pocket, but I say Tampa Bay takes Warren Sapp right now. Remember, they got a couple of second-round picks, and they got a guy that they didn't think would be there when they had the 8th pick in the draft. Now they're going to get him with a move down. I think it would be a great pick. And I recall a few years ago there were rumors about a guy named Dan Marino who fell all the way to the last pick of the first round with similar types of rumors about him. Turned out to be a pretty good football player. Chris?
Yeah, I would say that you went on a limb with that one, Gary. Let's go back to Craig James because, yes, it was a phone call that they had to take, wasn't it, Craig?
Absolutely, a very important phone call. Sam Weiss was on the phone there with Warren Sapp. Drew, are you surprised that Tampa Bay's the team?
Yeah, I'm surprised, yes. We didn't expect that they would. We had talked to them pretty extensively, but I didn't think they'd be the team. But we're elated because if he had to fall later than we thought he would go, at least he's in his home state. He's an hour and a half away from his hometown. He's in the right defensive